You want? No, I can sit there also if you want to, because I'm just staying for the first time.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, folks. Will everyone please take their seats? We're going to resume the meeting. Good afternoon, everyone. Can folks please take their seats? Okay, we're going to start the meeting picking up with Com Doc 1. We're going to start with review of Com Doc 1, SC 77 Com Doc 1, and I wanted to offer the floor to India if there was any comments you would like to make about the document before the committee takes up discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We thank the committee and the CITES Secretariat for discussion on the matter. The matter requires further deliberations. However, in the interest of time, we are not pressing for the discussions today. We would come back on this matter in the future meetings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. In that case, I invite you to withdraw the document. You can give the floor to India.
Yeah, we are withdrawing the document.
Thank you. And this closes this agenda item, ComDoc 1. Next, we'll take up SC 77, ComDoc 2, recommendations related to the document SC 77, Doc 33.3. This document has been prepared by the United States on behalf of the North American region and Belgium on behalf of the European Union and its member states at the request of the Standing Committee on the basis of document SC 77, Doc 33.3. I give the floor to Belgium or the United States.
Thank you, Chair. We're having I'm having to restart my computer, so if it's all right, we could come back. My apologies.
Okay, we can park this one and move on to ComDoc 3, SC 77 ComDoc 3. This is a report of the Finance and Budget Subcommittee, and I give the floor to the Secretariat. So I give the floor to the European Union as a member of the Finance and Budget Subcommittee to introduce the document.
Thank you. So I'll read the recommendations since we did not have a chair elected for the subcommittee. So the Finance and Budget Subcommittee recommends, when it comes to Agenda Item 8, Financial Matters, it recommends that the Standing Committee approve the reports on the costed program of work for the full year of 2022 and for the period up to 30th September 2023 for the year 2023. Invite the Conference of the Parties to approve that no registration fees are charged to observer organizations for online meetings. Request the Secretariat to organize the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties as per Resolution Conf 19.1, paragraph 32A, if no candidate host country is known by 31st March 2024, and to initiate fundraising for costs associated with the organization and to propose alternative approaches for funding future COPs for review. And take note of other information provided in the report. With regard to Agenda Item 9, Terms of Reference of the Finance and Budget Subcommittee, the committee recommends that the Standing Committee invite the Conference of the Parties to make the following amendments and replacement in Resolution Conf 18.2. A. The Terms of Reference of the Standing Committee Finance and Budget Subcommittee as amended by the Secretariat in the annex of the Working Document 9 and be annexed to Resolution Conf 8.2 on establishment of committees, and to make the following amendment in Resolution Conf 18.2 by deleting current paragraph 2 and to replace with new paragraph 2 and 3 as follows. So paragraph 2 would be establishes the Animals Committee and Plants Committee, so first the Animals and Plants Committee, and then paragraph 3 would be directing the Standing Committee to establish a Finance and Budget Subcommittee, so basically changing the order and changing also the reference to the relevant annexes. When it comes to agenda item 10.1, administrative matters, report of the Secretariat, the committee takes note of document 10.1 and recommends the Standing Committee to appreciate the continued contribution by the host country of the Secretariat. Finally, the committee recommends to the Standing Committee to request that UNEP provide in its report to the 17th meeting of the Standing Committee information on the implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Standing Committee of the Conference of the Parties to CITES and the Executive Director of UNEP concerning Secretariat services to and support of the Convention, and an update as to implementation of the remaining audit recommendations, and take note of other information provided in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. And now I open the floor to comments from the members of the Standing Committee on ComDoc 2. 3. Open the floor to observer parties for comments. Open the floor to observer organizations for any comments. Okay, without any comments, the Standing Committee agrees to the recommendations in ComDoc 3. And with that, I close this agenda item. US, are you ready for ComDoc 2? Okay, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the EU and the North America region, we submitted changes to the recommendations for Bangladesh in ComDoc 2 for the application of Article 13 for Bangladesh in document 33.3. To highlight the most substantial changes, we wanted to note 4 points. In paragraph 1A, it now takes into account the suggestion from the Standing Committee to revisit this item at Standing Committee 78. And so that paragraph now says, after suspend commercial trade and specimens of CITES-listed birds with Bangladesh until the party is in a position to adequately regulate and monitor trade in CITES-listed birds, comma, on which progress could be revisited at Standing Committee 78. And so that latter part is our addition. And secondly, we have made several suggestions throughout the document to root the text in the articles of the convention. And so you'll see references throughout to Articles 3 and 4 regarding non-detriment findings, and especially to Article 8 related to requirements of legislation and disposal of confiscated specimens. Third, there are also some changes regarding disposal and handling of live specimens in Section 3. There was a concern with the treatment of live animals at the border, and in light of this, we've suggested an additional recommendation under Category 3, which is the new D, and that is that Bangladesh take measures to ensure strict implementation of Article 8.3 of the Convention, to ensure that all living specimens during any period of transit, holding, or shipment are properly cared for so as to minimize the risk of injury, damage to health, or cruel treatment. On the disposal of sea specimens, we also clarified in an earlier paragraph the original recommendations to include under Resolution 17.8 all management options with disposal of live specimens with respect to the One Health principle. And lastly, we removed shalls throughout the document in addition to some smaller wording changes. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. I open the floor. I can give the floor to Bangladesh to get their comments on the document, on the revised document.
Madam Chair, Bangladesh appreciates the thoughtful edits to the recommendation of SC 77 COM 2. We accept this recommendation with some comments. as paragraph 47.2 is regarding legislation and law enforcement, so we propose the deletion of the appropriate measures for the disposal of confiscated live specimens, Article 8.4, from paragraph 47.2b, as it will create a confusion with paragraph 47.3, which is handling of live animals and disposal of seized live specimens. Mentionable, Bangladesh has started taking several initiatives to strengthen the regulatory framework in relation to CITES listed marine species and enhance institutional cooperation between the relevant bodies. Secondly, we propose the deletion of paragraph 47.3d with a proposal to amend paragraph 47.3c as Bangladesh will take measures to ensure implementation of Article 8 of the Convention, taking into account the recommendation and all management options contained in Resolution Conf 17.8 on disposal of illegally traded and confiscated specimens of CITES listed species to avoid the duplication in paragraph 47.3d and 47.3c. Lastly, we propose an amendment to paragraph 47.4e as Bangladesh will take measures to ensure the appropriate implementation of Article 3 and 4 with respect to non-detriment findings, taking into account recommendations contained in Resolution Conf 16.7, Rep. COF 17, giving consideration to strengthening its scientific authority by building capacity on wildlife issues and allocating sufficient resources to undertake population surveys that can be used in making of the non-detriment findings and in the setting of annual export quotas prior to authorizing exportation of CITES listed species with a particular focus on commercially exploited shark and ray species. Finally, Madam Chair, with the technical and financial support of the Secretariat, all signatory parties and national and international NGOs will continue and increase their assistance for enabling Bangladesh to improve our compliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Bangladesh. I open the floor to members of the Standing Committee for comments. I open the floor to observer parties. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies. I understood that Bangladesh was proposing some amendments to COM 2. I believe I caught the first one on paragraph 2b, but I would ask respectfully if they could repeat their proposal for paragraph 3, please. Thank you.
Bangladesh, can you repeat all of the recommendations? That would be helpful. All of the changes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor again. I am repeating all of our suggested recommendation. For paragraph 47.2, it is regarding legislation and law enforcement. So we propose the deletion of the appropriate measures for disposal of confiscated live specimens, Article 8.4, from paragraph 47.2b. It is because of the confusion arising from the paragraph 47.3, which is handling of live animals and disposal of seized live specimen. Then we propose the deletion of paragraph 47.3d with a proposal to amend paragraph 47.3c as Bangladesh will take measures to ensure implementation of Article 8 of the Convention, taking into account the recommendation and all management options contained in Resolution Conf 17.8, Rep. COP 19, on disposal of illegally traded and confiscated specimens of CITES listed species. It is also to avoid duplication in paragraph 47(3)(d) and 47(3)(c). Lastly, we propose an amendment to paragraph 47(4)(e) as Bangladesh will take measures to ensure the appropriate implementation of Article 3 and 4 with respect to non-detriment findings, taking into account recommendation contained in Resolution Conf 16.7, Rep COP 17, giving consideration to strengthening its scientific authority by building capacity on wildlife issues and allocating sufficient resources to undertake population surveys that can be used in the making of the non-detriment findings and in the setting of annual export quotas prior to authorizing exportation of CITES listed species with a particular focus on commercially exploited shark and ray species. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Indonesia, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to support the proposal by Bangladesh that couldn't change the recommendation. It is just soft the words. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. And so I'd like to engage the committee on this one, and if we have any additional comments from observer parties or observer organizations. What I'm seeing is the difference between what has been proposed from Bangladesh and what has been proposed by the United States and the European Union. So for the first edit, they want the removal of appropriate measures for disposal of confiscated live specimens, Article 8, Paragraph 4. The second edit is to remove the paragraphs for Article 8 and bring D, remove the paragraphs 4 and 3 and sort of make it at a higher article level for that particular recommendation. And then the last one is to focus specifically on exports when it comes to the recommendation on sharks as opposed to trade, which would be import, export, re-export, transit. And so need some guidance from the committee. Canada?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I know I'm not a member of the committee, but I'm not, still not entirely clear of the changes. So perhaps I'll describe what I understood and then indicate that Canada is in agreement with those changes. So firstly, I understood that Bangladesh wished to remove the latter half of paragraph B, given the confusion with some of the other recommendations, so Canada can support Bangladesh's suggestion. I'm trying to follow the discussion on the subarticles of paragraph 3. What I understood is that Bangladesh would retain subparagraph 3C with a reference to Article 8. We might suggest that the reference be to Article 8.3 and Article 8.4, given that I understand that Bangladesh wishes to remove the recommendation in the new recommendation D, and Canada can support the removal of the new recommendation D, although we do think the reference in recommendation C to both Articles 3 and 4 might be useful. And then Canada can agree with the changes to E as proposed by Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Any thoughts from the committee of whether, which direction to go, whether the document provided by the European Union and the United States or the revised document from Bangladesh? Give the floor to the United States.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this discussion. Our main, I think we could agree to the changes as the United States in 2B, appropriate measures for disposal of confiscated live specimens to be removed. And for the latter point having to do with paragraph 3, we wanted to ensure that the language and Article 8.3 is retained somewhere in the document having to do with all living specimens during any period of transit, holding, or shipment are properly cared for. So we would like that to ensure that is captured. It sounds like Canada's inclusion of reference to Article 8.3 might achieve that, but I'd be curious to hear other views, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. Belgium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We could also agree with the changes as proposed by Bangladesh in 2B and for E. For 3, I do hear my colleagues from the US, and although a reference to Article 8.3 would give already some guidance, although we might want to also refer to Resolution Conf 11.3 on compliance and enforcement, especially paragraph 3 in that regard. So that would give also some guidance on what we thought with paragraph D that would then be removed. So C would refer to Article 8, and then to all the management options contained in the resolution, and also make a reference to the resolution 11.3. So that would capture 8.3 and 8.4. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. Where we are now with the document is, seems to be support for the removal of appropriate measures for disposal of confiscated live specimens, Article 8.4 in subparagraph B. There seems to be support for that. We have the addition of Resolution Comp 11.3 on compliance enforcement, Rev Cop 19, inserted into subparagraph C. And then we have subparagraph D that is supported by the United States and there seems to be support for the final edit made by Bangladesh to narrow in recommendation E to export only. United States.
Thank you, Chair. Just to underscore, we're interested in the Article 8.3 being retained in that Section 3, and we're concerned if it's included in 3C, it would need to refer, we would need to have language there that's added that specifically this is referring to all living specimens that are properly cared for from that Article 8.3. I can repeat that if that's not clear. Thank you.
Bangladesh, it seems like there, maybe we have a way to have consensus or a compromise with accepting your edit in B and your edit in E, but I'm hearing from a committee member that they're really supportive of remaining, of keeping in D, and with the link to the articles of the convention in the document. And is that something that you can live with? Or if the committee members, is it something that you guys do not want in the document? I just need some guidance here because it seems to be split. If I don't hear any support from the committee regarding the removal of D by Bangladesh, I'm going to go with the text in the ComDoc, which will be the inclusion of D. That's how we've been doing it all meeting? Okay. So with that, we will, Bangladesh.
Thank you, Madam. What I have heard from our US delegation that they are concerned about the, they want to keep the reference of Article 8, paragraph 3. So as we have suggested in our edition that we are complied with the strict implementation of Article 8 of the convention. As Article 8 is covering all the paragraph 3, paragraph 4. So as we have mentioned it, that it's a duplication. This is one thought for the standing committee members. And if we want to keep Article 8, paragraph 3, then it can be kept in the 3.2 at the end of and at the end of C, that is the disposal of seized and confiscated live specimen, then we can add the reference of Article 8, paragraph 3. That will also serve the purpose of the US delegation, so that we can keep the recommendation a concise one. Thank you.
The United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking on behalf of the United States, and with apologies for the confusion about the different hats that we're wearing. So we appreciate the comments of the delegation from Bangladesh, but the point of the additional edit that was added in this COM document is to reference the two concepts, right? So the idea of how specimens at points of entry and exit should be handled and should be cared for, and then the point about how specimens, live specimens that have been seized, have been should be handled. And so we think that trying to put them all in this same paragraph kind of muddies the water. And from the United States perspective, I think our preference would be to continue to maintain something akin to what's in paragraph D here in the COM document, so that we're speaking to, as I said, we're speaking to how animals should be handled coming into and out of the country. And we note, obviously, that was quite a bit of the content of this document. And so from the US perspective, we feel that this is an important concept to retain. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. So, I mean, listening to the comment from the Bangladesh and listening to the United States now, I think we can have agreed upon approach for C, where it will read Bangladesh take measures to ensure implementation of Article 8.4 of the Convention, taking into account the recommendations and all management options contained in Resolution Conf 17.8 Rev Cop 19 on the disposal of illegally traded and confiscated specimens of CITES listed species, with the addition from Belgium on Resolution Comp 11.3, compliance and enforcement Rev Cop 19, and then we can do and put it under C2, and say and Article 8.3 of the Convention to ensure that all living specimens during any period of transit, holding, or shipment are properly cared for as so to minimize the risk of injury, damage, health, and cruel treatment. Does that serve your intent, Belgium, where they're both nestled in the same subparagraph? I'm sorry, Bangladesh.
Madam, we want to hear the total edited recommendation. Yeah, again.
Belgium.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify that Resolution 11.3 on compliance and enforcement, and especially paragraph 13, is a reference to Article 8.3. So I do hear the comments made by my colleagues from the US, and I would go with their suggestion and just keeping it separately, just not to mix up resolutions and articles. So Article 8.4 is refers to the resolution 17.8, and Article 8.3 refers to 11.3. I think with hearing everyone's suggestions, I think it would be better just to keep them separate. Thank you.
United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In an effort to try to be helpful, perhaps we could suggest that paragraph 3C be revised to read, Bangladesh take measures to ensure strict implementation of Article 8, para 4 of the Convention, taking into account the recommendations and all management options contained in Resolution Conf 17.8, Rev Cop 19, on disposal of illegally traded and confiscated specimens of CITES listed species, and Article 8, para 3, and the recommendations included in Resolution Conf 11.3, so that they're both concepts are included in the chapeau paragraph, but the articles and their relevant resolutions are more better aligned. So that's our suggestion of perhaps a way forward. Thank you.
Okay, so just want to flag that the deletion of D will also remove the little I underneath it, because we're going to be striking the whole recommendation D. And so what we're going to have is for recommendation C, Bangladesh take measures to ensure implementation of Article 8.4 of the Convention, taking into account the recommendations and all management options contained in Resolution Comp 17.8, Rev Cop 19, on disposal of confiscated specimens, and Article 8.3 of the Convention, and the recommendations in Resolution Conf 11.3, Rev Cop 19, compliance and enforcement. Belgium, you have the floor.
Yes, just for a clarification, then the little I under D, would that then become under C as little Roman tree?
Is that what you're proposing?
Yeah.
Do we have support for that? Committee, the addition plus the reinstation of little I under D under recommendation C as I. Okay. Bangladesh, any thoughts on that?
So then under C, it will be I, double I, then triple I? Or, okay. Okay, we are agreed this.
Okay. Committee, we can agree. Okay, with that, we agree to adopt the document COM2 with the edits that we just agreed upon on the floor. All right. We'll move next to COM3. We did 3. COM4. SC 77 COM4, this is review of trade and specimens, report as produced in captivity. The document was prepared by the Secretariat after discussions on SC 77 Doc 36. I give the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Chair. As you've just said, this is document COM4, and it was prepared by the Secretariat on the basis of document SC 77 Doc 36 after discussion in the 4th session of plenary. The document presents revised recommendations concerning paragraph 25A of document SC 77 Doc 36, and the committee should note that the original recommendations are found in the table in Annex 1 to document 36. This document represents a consolidation of the comments that were made during plenary by Poland on behalf of the European Union, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America. The new proposed text is underlined and deletions are indicated by strike-through. And at this point, we would just like to make one small correction to the recommendations under paragraph 3 concerning Varanus exanthematicus from Ghana. There was an error in transcribing, and for paragraph D, the recommendation should be to encourage Ghana rather than to encourage Benin. And with that, I yield. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat.
Pardon? Oh. Helen? Oh, me, sorry.
Okay, so we will begin discussion on 77 COM4, opening the floor to standing committee members for comments. United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the North America region, with regard to this document, as it pertains to case 8 and 9, we find the reference in the new recommendation D in both of these cases to be ambiguous in that it does not capture all the requirements for breeding stock detailed in Resolution Conf 10.16, including that breeding stocks should be established in a manner not detrimental to the survival of the species in the wild, and in accordance with the provisions of CITES and relevant national laws. To that end, we are recommending a change at the end of those paragraphs. So for 8, concerning Vulpes zerda from Sudan, the Standing Committee is invited to, and I'll read the recommendation with our edit at the end. So it's B, request confirmation from Sudan that specimens of V. zerda will not be exported from the breeding facility for commercial purposes until they are satisfied that the breeding stock was established in accordance with Resolution Conf 10.16, Rev Cop 19. And then there would be a similar edit to the request under paragraph 9 with regard to Centrocheles sulcata for Sudan also. And so that's the substitution at the end of the phrase, until they are satisfied that the breeding stock was established in accordance with Resolution Conf 10.16, Rev Cop 19. And I can read that out with the edit if that would be helpful.
Okay, so we're adding this language to 8 as well as 9, B, and it would be until they are satisfied that the breeding stock was established in accordance with Resolution Conf 10.16, Cop 19, Rev Cop 19. And the remainder of the paragraph is struck out. United States?
Yes, apologies. In both cases, the language that would be removed is, as is in the current COM document, is without an NDF for the founder stock. So that would be replaced with our suggested alternate language. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on ComDoc 4? Committee members, observer parties, observer organizations, concerned parties? Do we have support for the edit made by the United States? For 8 and 9, B, little b, to add in. Okay, we have some support. Okay, so the Standing Committee agrees to the recommendations in ComDoc 4 with the edits provided by the United States in recommendation 8 and 9, little paragraph B, to add until they are satisfied that the breeding stock was established in accordance with Resolution Conf 10.16, Rev Cop 19. Okay, with that, I will note the comments and close the agenda item. And we will move on to SC 77, ComDoc 5, National Ivory Action Plans Process. So this document was prepared by Belgium on behalf of the European Union and its member states and the United Kingdom of Britain and Northern Ireland at the request of the Standing Committee on the basis of recommendation in SC 77 Doc 34. And I give the floor to Belgium. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The revised recommendations on the NIAP as found in SC 77 ComDoc 5 were prepared by UK and Belgium based on our interventions during the plenary meeting and on the basis of the revised recommendations as presented by the Secretariat in the plenary session. In doing so, we noted the comments made by observer parties, but due to time constraints during the plenary meeting, the revised recommendations as communicated by the UK and Belgium on behalf of the EU and its member states hadn't been commented on by other standing committee members. So at this point in time, the level of support for these recommendations is somewhat unknown. I will now explain country by country what we've done. So the recommendations for DRC, Nigeria, Cambodia, Mozambique, Cameroon, and Qatar were not changed on content, only renumbered. However, for DRC, I have to note that there's an error in the set of recommendations because recommendation AII should be deleted as it's now redundant because it refers to the oral update and that's already in the past. We also, and I regret about this, but have an editorial change. So whenever in the text it reads, if there's no satisfactory response, the term response should be replaced by report. So it would read, if there is no satisfactory report, and then continue. This is for clarity reasons because response can have a broader meaning, whereas the real intent is that a satisfactory progress report on NIAP implementation is to be submitted. So I hope that is clear. I will then continue with the remaining parties. So for Togo and Vietnam, the recommendations now read for the Standing Committee to request the Secretariat to review and assess the 2 progress reports which were submitted late. In case the Secretariat in its evaluation finds them unsatisfactory, a notification is to be sent out recommending all parties to suspend trade in CITES listed species until the party concerned submits a satisfactory progress report. The reason for this is that the submission of a progress report too late for the Secretariat to evaluate it should not be seen as an extension of the deadline for reporting to the next Standing Committee. We felt this would be unfair towards those parties that adhere to the reporting requirements as agreed upon in the NIAP guidelines. For Gabon, Congo and Lao PDR, who did not submit a report, and in line with the approach decided upon at previous Standing Committee meetings, we recommend that the Standing Committee directs the Secretariat to request these parties to submit their progress report within 60 days of the conclusion of SC 77 for evaluation by the Secretariat. If there is no satisfactory report from either of these parties, a notification should be issued to recommend to parties to suspend trade until a satisfactory report has been submitted. For Angola, the recommendation is similar as for the just mentioned parties, noting, however, that Angola did submit a report, but that the report noted no progress made. The report did say that Angola is finalizing a report still this year, which would highlight progress made. Therefore, we felt it is justified and consistent to recommend the same request as for the previous parties. So they would be given also 60 days after the conclusion of the Standing Committee to submit their updated report for evaluation by the Secretariat, and if it's satisfactory, then it's okay. If not, a notification recommending a trade suspension would be in order. For Malaysia, we accepted the recommendations as revised during the plenary session by the Secretariat, so they recognize the late submission, but given that Malaysia is already far advanced in the completion of their NIAP, it's proposed that they submit a progress report in time for analysis by SC 78. This brings me to the end of the presentation of these revised recommendations. I hope everything is clear, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Belgium. I give the floor to members of the Standing Committee as well as concerned parties if they want to provide any comments. Chad, you have the floor with the DRC.
DRC. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. DRC is speaking as the alternate member replacing Chad. The delegate is unfortunately unable to be with us, so I am replacing them. And I'm speaking for the first time as a member of the Standing Committee. Madam Chair, I wanted to raise just a few inconsistencies between COM 5 in paragraph A and the sum document. So I will look at that document on page 5 where it was requested of Belgium, speaking on behalf of the member states of the European Union and the United Kingdom, in paragraph 78, my apologies, and to submit a session document for consideration during the meeting. That was approved by the committee, and it was requested to bear in mind the comments of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Nigeria. But in the report, which we see in COM 5, as submitted by Belgium, this has not taken into account the recommendation of the committee on Nigeria's comments and those of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I wish to say that COM 5 is in contradiction to sum 6 and does not reflect the comments from the DRC and Nigeria, because it was justified by the non-submission of the national Ivory action plans, and it was recommended that trade be suspended. Thank you.
I'm going to just pose the question to the United Kingdom and Belgium. Where did you take the comments from Nigeria and the DRC into consideration when you generated the document for us to see?
Yes, we heard the comments, but we felt they were not well-founded, so we felt that the way we propose it now is still justified. And like I mentioned in the beginning of my intervention, at that point in time, none of the other Standing Committee members had an opportunity to comment on the proposed way forward by us. So I think it would be interesting to hear the views of the other Standing Committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium, and thank you for giving us a proposed way forward. And so I hope that answers your question. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, this is not a final document. This document combines the recommendations of Belgium and the United Kingdom so that they could be on paper so we can see, because they were a little bit substantial when we were going through them on the floor. And at that time in the agenda, we were very, very delayed in our work program. And so this is the time for folks to reflect upon these recommendations as well as propose alternate recommendations. It's up for discussion. I give the floor to Gabon.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gabon supports to E2 Roman I, but not E triple I of COM 5 with respect to the publication of notification to parties recommending that they suspend appendix listed species with Gabon on waiting for a report on its NIAP progress report to the Secretariat within 60 days. But the relevant resolution says that if a problem with respect to compliance with the convention is manifest. There is a warning given by the Secretariat. Now, in keeping with 14.3 Rev Cop 19, the suspension of appendix listed species can happen if there's a problem with respect to compliance not having been solved and persists, with the party having shown no intention of respecting the convention. Previously this week, Gabon has said that it's the very first time since we became part of this process that we have not been in a position to submit a report in good time for this meeting of the SC. We further reassured the Standing Committee and the Secretariat that we would be providing a report within 60 days. This in keeping with the Secretariat's recommendation in 78H of document 34. Gabon therefore considers that E little Roman 3 in this document is not appropriate, and we would ask that the Standing Committee delete it. It is our recommendation that the Secretariat be invited to send Gabon a formal written warning, this in keeping with the Annex to Comp 14.3 Rev Cop 19 and the Secretariat's recommendation, paragraph 78H of 1734. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabon. I give the floor to Malaysia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Malaysia noted the recommendations proposed by the European Union and the UK in document COM 5. We accept the amendments to the recommendations and would like to propose one additional recommendation, which has been similarly used in the decision of the SC 74 by adding in a small capital G as follows. The Secretariat recommends that the Standing Committee agree that it will consider at SC 78 whether Malaysia should exit the NIAP process in accordance with Step 5 of the guidelines, full stop. And finally, Malaysia will ensure submission of our progress report on NIAP implementation 90 days before the SC 78. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Malaysia. Malaysia, can you give me that last additional recommendation again?
Right. The Secretariat recommends that the Standing Committee agree that it will consider at SC 78 whether Malaysia should exit the NIAP process in accordance with Step 5 of the guidelines.
Thank you, Malaysia. I give the floor to Morocco.
Merci, Madame. Thank you, Madam Chair. I, too, would like to thank Belgium and the United Kingdom for preparing these recommendations. On the DRC, and following the statement made by their delegate, I feel that the DRC presentation was not taken into account. So for A4, we would suggest that the DRC be given an additional period and be allowed to submit their report within 60 days of SC 77. Should the report not be submitted, the Secretariat could then react accordingly. We further support the proposal made by Gabon when it comes to their situation. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Morocco. Just to confirm, Morocco, your proposal is to add for the DRC that at the Standing Committee request, the Secretariat, in accordance with Step 4, Paragraph F of the Guidelines to NIAP process on the behalf of the committee, request the DRC to submit a NIAP progress report to the Secretariat within 60 days of the conclusion of SC 77. And another recommendation, if there's no satisfactory report by the DRC, request the Secretariat to issue a notification to the parties recommending all parties suspend commercial trade in CITES listed species with the DRC until it submits progress report to the Secretariat confirming that progress has been made towards the NIAP implementation. Thank you, Morocco. I give the floor to Madagascar.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to thank the working group for what has been done with respect to this document, and we support Morocco's proposal with respect to the DRC and Morocco. Thank you, Madam Chair. And Gabon, apologies. Morocco said agreement with respect to DRC and Gabon.
Okay, I give the floor to Kenya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having listened to the submission of DRC and considering that this agenda item was not exhausted when we first discussed it, and from what DRC has presented, we consider that there is a substantive or adequate justification considering the situation in DRC. I think they have expressed themselves, and therefore we would align ourselves with the support provided by Madagascar, Morocco, Gabon, that the Standing Committee could consider on exceptional circumstances if we could delay the entry of Step 4 for DRC until SC 78, if DRC doesn't then provide such satisfactory response, then the Standing Committee could come back at 78 and make a determination on the application of the compliance measures. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. I give the floor to Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving Indonesia the floor. It seems we are talking randomly, so we'll try to catch up with the text, with the discussion. First on Malaysia, we listen, and it seems that there is this practice where there is this paragraph used in SC 74, which it seems that it is only for clarification. Hence, we are flexible with supportive of Malaysia's proposals on the additional paragraph, the for greater clarity paragraph in this regard. And if we may, we also made a comment on the DRC situation, where it seems that, if I get it correctly, they have elections, which many of us do also have from time to time, and perhaps there are also security issues in their case, and they might need more time to provide their report. And I believe Morocco proposed 2 months, 60 days, and I mean, we are open to this. We are able to consider this, but we would like to hear from DRC if this is enough, or perhaps there's more clarity in where are the election and what time is really needed in this regard. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Kuwait.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to echo Morocco in regard to DRC and Gabon, and also would like to support the edit made by Malaysia. Thank you.
I give the floor to Cambodia as a concerned party.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing Cambodia to make a short comment. Cambodia agree with the recommendation of by the Standing Committee, and we want to add one new paragraph, paragraph I, invite CITES Secretariat to consider Cambodia exit of the CITES NIP process in accordance with the step 5 of the NIP guideline. It is similar to the stage of the suggested by colleague in Malaysia. Thank you.
So I'm going to pose this to the DRC as Indonesia has asked the question about the feasibility of 60 days. It seems to be a good compromise between what was provided by Belgium and the United Kingdom to give, and also aligns with what the other concerned parties were afforded, and it seems to be supported by some of the Standing Committee members. I give the floor to the DRC.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to thank the committee members for their understanding. My country's situation is rather unusual. The 60-day deadline might be a little bit difficult. Could we perhaps be given until April of 2024 The reason I suggest this is that the country is in a situation of some upheaval right now. There are elections underway, which always generates a certain amount of that kind of upheaval. So 60 days takes us to the actual elections with the kind of unrest that such elections imply, which is why I wonder whether April 2024 could be considered an acceptable deadline, because that would enable us to submit the report without too much difficulty. That is my request. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is the committee supportive of giving the DRC and changing it from 60 days and giving them to the 1st of April 2024 to submit their report? Yes? Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you for a good compromise, and so we're going to try to wrap up this document, and I'm going to give it to the Secretariat to read out all the edits that they've been capturing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with respect to paragraph A of this document, I believe that the little Roman 1 will stay as it is, and then Roman 2, 3, and 4, as they're currently listed here, would be deleted and replaced with the following. Request the Secretariat, in accordance with step 4, paragraph F of the guidelines to the NIAP process on behalf of the committee, to request the DRC to submit its NIAP progress report to the Secretariat before 1st of April 2024. And the next one will read, if there's no satisfactory report by the DRC, request the Secretariat to issue a notification to parties recommending all parties to suspend commercial trade in cited listed species with the DRC until it submits its progress report to the Secretariat, confirming that progress has been made towards NIAP implementation. So that would be paragraphs A.
Do we have agreement on paragraph A of recommendation A in ComDoc 5, as just read out by the Secretariat regarding the Democratic Republic of the Congo? I'm seeing some head shakes. Yes? Belgium, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think given the exceptional circumstances in DRC, we could accept it, but we would then like to have it noted that this is really an exceptional circumstance that we take into account to avoid getting new kind of deadlines in the future a bit randomly. So we would like to have it explicitly noted that it's due to exceptional circumstances. Thank you.
So if I understand Belgium correctly, there would be an addition to the new little subparagraph Roman 2, which would begin with noting the exceptional circumstances in the country and then continue as I read out earlier on. Thank you.
And with that, we have agreement, and the committee can agree to recommendation A as just edited on the floor and read out by the Secretariat. Does the committee agree to the revised recommendations in ComDoc 5B? I didn't hear any edits or concerns with that recommendation. Okay. The committee agrees to recommendation B and ComDoc 5 as written in the document. Recommendation C for Togo and Vietnam. I didn't hear any comments regarding that edit. Any edits? So the committee agrees to the committee agrees to recommendation C as it's written in ComDoc number 5. And so for recommendation D, I'm going to give it to the Secretariat to read out the new III recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the proposal by Malaysia that Cambodia requested be added to paragraph D as well, so it would be the same text with respect to paragraph D and paragraph F. And it would simply be a new Roman. So in the case of Cambodia, it's a new Roman 3. And it would read, so it starts with the Standing Committee agrees that it will consider at its 78th meeting whether Cambodia should exit the NIAP process in accordance with step 5 of the guidelines.
Support for recommendation D as amended? Okay. The committee agrees to recommendation D for Cambodia as amended. I haven't heard any, I did hear some support on the Standing Committee for the proposal by Gabon, which I will give it to the Secretariat to read out.
So Gabon suggested the deletion of subparagraph 2, subparagraphs Little Roman 2 and Little Roman 3 to be replaced with what was the original recommendation from the Secretariat in accordance with step 4, paragraph 5 of the guidelines. I think it says the Standing Committee's requests the Secretariat on behalf of the committee to issue a written caution requesting Gabon to submit its NIAP progress report to the Secretariat and to offer assistance to Gabon. If I understood correctly, that was what Gabon wanted.
Is that a correct, is that Gabon, is that correct? I give the floor to Gabon.
Merci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indeed, the Gabon recommendation should be that we get a warning if we have not submitted our report within 60 days. So a warning and not suspension of trade, because this is the first time that we have not been able to submit our report in time. Thank you, Madam.
Is there support from reinstating the recommendations as was outlined in the other document? I can read it again. Give the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we would maintain Little Roman 2, request the Secretariat to request Gabon to submit a NIAP report to the Secretariat within 60 days of the conclusion of SC 77. And then if there's no satisfactory report by Gabon, request the Secretariat to issue a written caution to Gabon.
There seems to be some agreement for that. I have the gentleman from the DRC.
Oui, merci, Madame. Thank you, Madam Chair. The DRC, speaking for Central Africa, supports Gabon. Thank you.
Belgium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I understood the first intervention by Gabon correctly, they informed us that they would be in a position to submit their report within 60 days. So I do not see why the original recommendations, as we put forward, could not be maintained, given that they intend to submit a satisfactory report. We just want to make sure that the rules are being complied with, and in keeping with standard practice, if there's no satisfactory report after a non-submission, normally there would be a notification to suspend trade. So we would prefer to keep it as we submitted it, noting the good intentions from Gabon to submit a satisfactory report within 60 days. Thank you.
So I think in the efforts of a compromise, I would like to see what the rest of the committee thinks about the Gabon proposal, and noting from the Secretariat that this is the first time that they have not reported. Support? I'm seeing some support. No. New Zealand.
Sorry, could you just clarify what we're being asked to support? Which option? Thank you.
Yeah. Right now, I'm the recommendation from Gabon for Gabon for it to be them having after 60 days, if they don't report, for the Secretary to issue a written warning. United States.
Thank you. Speaking on behalf of the North American region, we support Gabon, but would like to note for the record Gabon's commitment to submit the report within 60 days. Thank you.
Thank you, North American region. I give the floor to Gabon.
We thank you, Madam Chair, for giving us the floor once more. Yes, indeed, Gabon did not refuse to present its report in the 60-day period, but we wish it to be notified that we will receive a notification banning the CITES species with Gabon, because in paragraph 29C of the annex of resolution 14.3, COP19, the Standing Committee decides to address in writing a warning requesting a response and offering assistance. So, to this effect, in respect of the Convention and its provisions, and given that it is only the first time that Gabon did not submit its report in time, and knowing that currently in Gabon we all know what happened, we've had some specific issues in August and September. It's the first time it's happened. It is not fair that we receive a notification of suspension of trade with Gabon. So we are committing ourselves to submit our report, but we would like the Standing Committee to also commit to issue a notification saying it is just a warning and not a suspension. This is in accordance and respect of the convention. Thank you.
To the representatives from Belgium and Georgia, if we were to add some introductory language similar to we add to the DRC, would we have agreement on a written warning due to exceptional circumstances in the country? Belgium, you have the floor.
Yes, and my apologies. I just want to make sure that it's understood that this notification with the recommendation to suspend trade would only be issued if Gabon does not submit a satisfactory report. And given their commitment to submit such a report, I'm a bit confused as to why we're having this discussion. I realize that it may be the first time that they do not submit a report, but as in line with previous decisions, well, we felt that it was justified. I mean, if everyone feels that a warning is more in place, then we will accept that. But we're just a bit confused because, in a way, if they submit a satisfactory report, there will obviously not be a notification. So I just want to make sure that that's clear for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. We're going to have to wrap this item up soon. And so I'm going to give the floor quickly to members of the three front members of the committee, starting with Morocco.
Merci, Madame. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd also like to thank Gabon for the clarifications. And it's not really a matter of a major problem of failure to comply with the convention. So if there is not a report submitted within the time set out, a first warning would have to be given. So I support the proposal from Gabon. Thank you.
Kenya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just like the case of DRC, I think from the expression of Gabon, they are also under certain exceptional circumstances. We would request if we can also consider Gabon along the line, so we have considered DRC, and consider that perhaps it's the 60 days that is limited for them to make a satisfactory response. So if Gabon could be requested, if the 150 days like we have given to DRC can survive, can be adequate for them to satisfactorily respond to the request to do the reporting for assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, DRC.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I align myself with what Kenya said. As I said on behalf of Central Africa, we could have the same treatment from the committee if we have to apply the resolution on the procedures of the convention. We have to give this time to Gabon, and as we did for DRC, and also come back to the warning in that case. Thank you.
So my proposal is, we have heard commitments from the representative from Gabon. We can add that language of due to exceptional circumstances in the country, and have a 60-day time period for them to submit their proposal, their report, and if not, they would have a written warning. And United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Apologies for belaboring the point. We do have concerns about using the phrase "given exceptional circumstances" too broadly, and from the U.S. perspective, we are concerned that we are applying it in sort of varying circumstances here. The delegation from DRC outlined exceptional circumstances with regard to elections and political situations in the country. If we understood the intervention from the delegation from Gabon, that concerns the exceptional happening that this is the first time that they have submitted a report late. So we would be concerned about equating those two sorts of circumstances. And I think our colleague from Belgium, I think that the point made with regard to offering up that language was to make clear that we're not setting a precedent here, and that that we're being very mindful of what we consider to be exceptional circumstances. So with that in mind, our preference from the U.S. would be to, with regard to Gabon, to not reference exceptional circumstances, but to note the commitment to submit the report within 60 days. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have support for that, for the 60 days, then a written warning, and to note their commitment? Yes, okay. I'm just going to give it to the Secretary to read out that recommendation, and then we can agree and move on to the next country.
So for paragraph E, the Standing Committee notes that Gabon did not submit its progress report with NIAB implementation and notes its commitment to do so within 60 days, requests the Secretariat in accordance with step 4, paragraph 5 of the guidelines, and then this whole text would read as it stands. And then the next paragraph, little Roman 3, if there is no satisfactory report by Gabon, request the Secretariat to issue a written caution requesting Gabon to submit a satisfactory progress report to the Secretariat and to offer assistance to Gabon.
So there's agreement to that. The Standing Committee agrees to recommendation E as just read out by the Secretariat. We can move to recommendation F. We had a request from Malaysia for the Standing Committee to agree that it will consider at its 78th meeting whether or not Malaysia can exit the NIAP process in accordance with step 5 of the guidance. Is there support for that additional recommendation? Yes. The Standing Committee can agree to recommendation F with the edit of adding the additional recommendation. I did not hear any comments on recommendation G for Mozambique. Is there agreement on the recommendation B as is outlined in the COM-Doc 5? If I don't hear anything, I'm going to take it that the committee is in consensus and agrees with the language in the recommendation G as it's outlined in the COM-Doc and agrees to recommendation G. Okay, for recommendation H for Angola, just in the new recommendation I, we will be changing response to report. The committee agrees to recommendation H for Angola. And so recommendation J, no comments on recommendation J. The committee agrees to recommendation J as outlined in the document. For recommendation K for Congo, I didn't hear any comments, so the committee agrees to recommendation K as outlined in the document with the edit to Roman numeral III for report from response, change from response to report. Yeah, so recommendation L, didn't hear any comments regarding that, so the committee agrees to recommendation L as outlined in the document, and then recommendation M for Lao PDR, no comments on that. The committee agrees to the recommendation M for Lao PDR with the edit in Roman numeral 3 that changes response to report. And then recommendation N for Qatar, no comments on that, and so the committee agrees to recommendation N as outlined in the document. I'll note all the comments made on the floor, and with that, we close this agenda item. The next document is document 6, Mike and Etis subgroup, and I give the floor to Belgium, who's chairing the group.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm presenting this report in my capacity as newly appointed chair of the Mike and Etis subgroup, and I already thank the members from the subgroup for electing me and for the work done so far. And I also wanted to thank the Secretariat for facilitating the meeting by ensuring good understanding by both the Anglophone and Francophone members. There was only one item on the agenda related to the aggregated elephant specimen seizure data summaries. So as a reminder, at SC70, the Standing Committee decided that traffic should compile aggregated summaries of the validated Etis data on an annual basis, and that this information would be posted on the CITES website. With the development of Etis Online, which facilitates data submission by parties, allowing for more up-to-date information on seizures of elephant specimens, it's now possible to automatically generate these aggregated summaries using the most recent validated Etis data. This would be furthermore facilitated by moving this information and making it available on a publicly accessible part of the otherwise password-secured Etis Online website. A direct link to this information on Etis Online would be put on the relevant section of the CITES website. So the Mike and Etis subgroup recommends that the Standing Committee requests traffic, in collaboration with the Secretariat, to publish the automated aggregated elephant specimen seizure data summaries on the public section of the otherwise password-secured Etis Online, while maintaining a link to this information on the CITES website. Thank you.
I open the floor to comments from members of the Standing Committee. Observer parties, observer organizations. Okay, the Standing Committee agrees to request traffic in collaboration with the Secretariat to publish in the automated aggregate elephant specimen seizure data summaries on the public section of the otherwise password-secure Etis Online, while maintaining a link to this information on the CITES website. With that, I conclude this agenda item, and congratulations on being elected chair, Belgium. The next item we will take up is SC77 Doc 55. This document has been submitted by the African Elephant Range States at the request of the Standing Committee on the basis of document SC77 Doc 55. And I would turn the floor over to one of the representatives of the range states who worked on drafting this document. doesn't look like anyone wants to introduce the document, so we can start discussions on it. Oh, Kenya, you have the floor.
Oh, shit. Crazy. Thank you, Madam Chair. Document SC 77-7 has been developed not by the African Range States, but by the parties present in this meeting on behalf of the African Elephant Range States. Just a correction to make, because we do not purport to be all of us as range states in this meeting. We had fruitful discussions, and we agreed to the elements that will be captured in the dialogue meeting for the African Elephant Dialogue meeting. And Madam Chair, going to the last part of the document, where we are talking about the additional salient issues that the parties present on behalf of the African Elephant Range States identified to be additional items to be discussed at the dialogue meeting. You note that, members, you note that under Part 4, under Part 3, on a sustainable financing of the African elephant conservation and management, Part C, we had retained that sentence with the square brackets, meaning that we had not fully agreed. But now it can be confirmed that this agreement that we can strike out 3C in the document, with the understanding that in the meeting there will be expanded discussions to cover all possible issues that will help us in securing sustainable financing for the conservation and management of elephants in the country. With that, Madam Chair, we consider that we have come into a consensus on what to form the basis of the dialogue meeting, noting that we already working within the framework of decision 19.167. You know, that is the core items that captured in agenda number 1. The dialogue meeting will primarily look at decision 19.167, and the others are additional agenda items that we consider as the African Elephant Range States will be important for us to have an open discussion and agree on the way forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. And so I open the floor to members of the Standing Committee for their thoughts on this COMDOC 7. Yeah. I give the floor to Belgium.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we sincerely thank the African Elephant Range States present here for having met and agreed upon the document. We support all recommendations. We just have a question for clarification on the draft terms of reference. So it's noted there that it mentions that the dialogue meeting will be conducted in both open and closed sessions. And this is obviously fully up to the agreement of all range states, as the attendance of anyone except the representatives of the range states is only possible after agreement by all of them, as set out in the resolution. So we were just wondering what exactly is meant by this open and closed session, what it exactly means, because, for example, the IUCN African Elephant Specialist Group and UNEP will be invited as technical experts and resource persons, and the African Union Commission is approved to attend the meeting as an observer party. So it was a bit unclear to us who is then supposed to attend which section of the meeting by default. So we just wanted to have some clarity about this because we feel it's best to have clarity in this document to avoid misunderstanding further down the road. So appreciate it if that clarity could be given. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. I give the floor to the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. DRC joins with what Kenya has said. that we agreed to remove paragraph 3C in this document. Thank you.
I open the floor to observer parties. United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have one small amendment to annex of the terms of reference. So on page 2, under participation, the third paragraph down starts with, following the recommendations of the range states, the Secretariat to invite the IUCN African Specialist Group and UNEP as Secretariat of AEFSC to attend the meeting as technical experts and resource personnel. We feel that this should reincorporate the words and other technical experts, and I'll read it afterwards, into this so that it isn't as, so it's broader in its scope, not just those two groups, other technical experts. So what I'm proposing is that it says, following the recommendations of the range states, the Secretariat to invite the IUCN African Specialist Group, then cross out and, comma, UNEP as Secretariat of the AEFSC, and then the addition would be and other technical experts to attend the meeting as technical experts and resource persons. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to park that edit. Just flagging that the Standing Committee's recommendation, like what we're asked to do is sort of to note the draft terms of reference that was created by the group. As we all have seen in the resolution, that the agenda for the item is constructed by the Secretary, the Chair of the Standing Committee, the Secretariat in consultation with the members of the range states. And so I think that's a good addition for the consideration of the range states. However, it does seem that they have decided upon a few of the technical experts that they want, and whether or not they would like to have it open to other technical experts, that's at the decision of the range states. And so it's up to them if they would like to amend their terms of reference. I give the floor to Botswana.
Thank you, Chair. Botswana would wish to express her appreciation for the African Elephant Range States for having reached an agreement on the construction of the proposed dialogue meeting. We are in full agreement that 3C should be deleted, and we look forward to welcoming all African Elephant Range States and technical experts to Botswana in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Botswana. I give the floor to Zimbabwe.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. What Kenya presented is a correct reflection of our discussions, and we wish to abide by that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any additional comments? And then I would, I don't know who to pose this question to regarding the question from Belgium about open and closed participation. There allows for both parts in the resolution, and has the range states given any consideration on who would technical experts be included in closed discussions, or are they just for open discussions, or is this something that hasn't been decided at this point? It's also okay if it hasn't been decided on this point? I give the floor to Kenya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This matter has not been discussed. However, we were also guided by the rules of procedure of dialogue meetings, and we looked at Rule 2 and Rule 5. Then again, I can say it was not discussed. We had intended to have a meeting this morning, but because of the backlog of the agenda in the meeting, we couldn't meet. So we did not fully exhaust our discussions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more comments on ComDoc 7? Okay, so it looks like we can go ahead and agree to for recommendation 6A for the Standing Committee to call for a CITES dialogue meeting as per resolution 14.5 on dialogue meetings for African elephant range states. B, welcome Botswana's offer to host the dialogue meeting in consultation with the chair of the Standing Committee and the range states. Thank you, Botswana, for your offer. C, to note the draft terms of reference found in annex to the present document, and we have provided some input. D, instructs the Secretariat on the basis of the draft terms of reference to support the organization of the dialogue meeting in the second half of 2024 in collaboration with Botswana, the chair of the Standing Committee, and the African regional representatives of the committee in accordance with the annex to Resolution COM 14.5 on dialogue meetings. E, requests the Secretariat to ensure adequate funds are available to support 2 delegates per African elephant range states, as well as other African state parties subject to funding, as well as to assist Botswana on the overriding cost to host the dialogue meeting, such as conference facility, provisions of interpretation of the 2 languages of the convention being English and French. And then F, a new decision is request the Secretariat to engage with the African Union Commission to explore possibilities of having ministerial segment on the last day of the dialogue meeting. So, United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We just wanted to come back to this point and clarify that we understand that we do not need to amend the terms of reference, but there is a separate invitation by the Standing Committee to the African elephant range states to coordinate with the chair with the assistance of the Secretariat on the invitation of any other parties or technical experts in accordance with the rules of procedure in Resolution Conf 14.5 on dialogue meetings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We can note that comment. Thank you. So with that, we have agreed on the recommendations as amended and just read out on the floor. And with that, I close this agenda item. Okay, we have ComDoc 8 recommendations related to document 77, Doc 37. And I'm going to briefly give the floor to the representative from Brazil who helped chair this small drafting group.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I shall attempt to be brief, and we'll do so in English, says the Speaker.
In the 9 November morning session of this committee, the chair of the Standing Committee has assigned the drafting group to assess proposals made by member parties with regard to the recommendations on agenda item 33.7, Article 13 in Ecuador. The group should comprise representatives of the following member parties: Ecuador, Peru, United States of America representing North America region, New Zealand representing Oceania region, Spain, Germany, and Poland representing the European Union, and Japan. Brazil was appointed as chair of the drafting group. The drafting group met twice on November 9, once at lunch break and the other after our session, evening session, in the room reserved for the meetings of our region. Representatives of all the drafting group's members, as well as representatives of Honduras, Dominican Republic, and Panama, attended the meetings. The chair invited Argentina to support its work. The Secretariat also was present to support the work of the drafting group. The meetings were very objective and productive. The participants demonstrated a collaborative approach and contributed actively to the chair's work. At the end of the second meeting, consensus was reached on the recommendations made at the end of this report. And the recommendations are on doc count 8. Brazil thanks all delegations that participate in the drafting group for their cooperation and flexibility. Brazil also thanks the Secretariat for the support, as well as Argentina for kindly accepting the invitation to collaborate with the chair of the drafting group. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. And so I'll open the floor to members of the Standing Committee for comments on ComDoc 8. Open the floor to observer parties. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like, first of all, to thank the delegation of Brazil for chairing the drafting committee work and thank all those who participated in that work. It was constructive and worked successfully towards agreed text. We can agree the amendments made without prejudice to our manifest need for cooperation from all parties in order to ensure that we can do everything that has been asked of us. We do undertake to do everything by the deadline. We would like to suggest an amendment with respect to the Spanish version of the text. 58A. We have listed in English in the second to last line. In English, it says bycatch, and the Spanish is capturas accesorias. The Spanish should be capturas incidentales. So it's a matter of translation. So bycatch in English has been wrongly translated in Spanish. That's the second to last line of 58A. That is the only place in the text, I think, where bycatch appears, but if it appears anywhere else, we have to make sure that you have incidental instead of accessoria. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ecuador. I open the floor to observer parties. Okay, with that, the committee agrees to the recommendations in ComDoc 8. Paragraph 58 with the note on the translation error by Ecuador. With that, I conclude this agenda item, and we can move on to the summary records. Okay, we are going to move on to SC 77 Summary Record 3. Anything, Secretariat, on this document? I open the floor for comments for committee members, observer parties, observer organizations. Any comments on this Summary Record 3? Germany.
Thank you, Chair. So our French colleagues had to leave to take the train, and they asked me to convey to you that they have comments on the French version of the executive summaries, which they would hand in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Germany. With no comments, the committee adopts SC 77, Sum 3. We have Sum Doc 4 next up. With that, I can close that agenda item, and we move on to Summary Document 4. Anything on this one, Secretariat? No. I open the floor to committee members, observer parties, observer organizations. Any comments on Sum Doc 4? I give the floor to the European Union.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During the discussion on agenda item 33.8, the EU was requesting the floor at some point, but was not given the opportunity to make a statement to be reflected in the executive summary. We were also not able to make it at the end, the statement at the end, as the committee moved on quite quickly. So we would like, the EU and its member states would like to take this opportunity to request the following statement based on the intervention that we made during the discussion to be included in the executive summary. So I'll read it. The EU...
Just wait, the European Union, it will be reflected in the summary record for this session?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. The EU and its member states have provided detailed information with regard to the system in place in the EU and compliance with the Convention, and expressed the view that the report did not provide sufficient details about how the Secretariat came to the general conclusion in paragraph 87A. Thank you.
Thank you. That comment will be noted. It'll be reflected in the summary record. Any other comments? We have give the floor to Mexico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On points 33.8 and 33.1, our delegation in the statement invite parties to implement also resolution 13.9 on in situ, ex situ cooperation, and it was no opposition to that. And this language is not reflected in the agreement, so we suggest to include at the end of the first paragraph in each point. I would say it's a very short, and to consider implementation of resolution conf 13.9 on encouraging cooperation between parties with ex situ breeding operations and those with in situ conservation programs. As I said, we don't recall any objection to the language we propose, and we will appreciate that can be included. Thank you very much.
Mexico, it wasn't, although there wasn't any opposition for it when we went through and the committee agreed on the recommendations, that wasn't one that they agreed upon. And so it can be noted in this summary record. However, we are not able to open up this document and have the standing committee agree to that. I give the floor to Mexico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From our view, that was included in our statement, and even we sent copy to Secretariat for other reasons, also to the legal, the chief of the legal branch, and also it was very quick, so we were wondering about that. So we didn't hear any opposition, and it was part of the discussions and the statements. So we asked if this can be included at the end. That was the way we also asked for it, and it's not reflected. But so we're asking for registration and also to consider in situ, ex situ conservation. Part of our arguments were we mentioned some species of Mexican parrots, and also the same was for Brazil, that this is part of the elements why we also consider it's important to not only registration, but also to consider this resolution. Thank you.
So, I mean, that's not something that I'm going to be able to do. The Standing Committee did not agree to these, and so it will be reflected in the summary record for that particular agenda item, as well as in this summary record. As you stating it again, we can note it. Unless I hear an overwhelming, I have Brazil.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Brazil actually thinks that the suggestion made by Mexico would add value to these recommendations. So our suggestion is that perhaps this committee could consult if the EU, as the party who is receiving the recommendation, would agree with the add of this suggestion to the recommendations. Would it be possible, and if the EU would agree? And also, taking the chance, I would like that our explanations we made in this point be reflected in the summary records of the meeting. Thank you.
I'm going to turn to the European Union on their thoughts on including
Not any changes. Thank you. No, we do not agree with any changes in the recommendation, so we would prefer to keep them as they are.
Thank you, the European Union. All of this discussion will be noted. It was noted in the summary record for this agenda item. It will be noted in the summary record for this item also. And with that, the committee agrees to summary record. Is there any more comments, edits to the summary record? Okay. The committee agrees to summary record 4. Adopt summary record 4. We move on to summary record 5. This is from Wednesday morning. I open the floor to committee members. Secretariat has a comment.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, there's just a very small technical edit regarding agenda item 59. You, committee chair, noted at the time the comments made by EU, Japan, Mexico, the UK, and Animal Welfare Institute, and the Secretariat forgot to include the EU. Thank you.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the SC 77 Doc 41.2, Asian big cats in captivity, India made a suggestion inviting the Standing Committee to encourage parties where the Secretariat could not undertake tiger missions to extend invitation were not done and provide all possible in-country assistance to carry out visits to the facilities identified on keeping big Asian big cat species in captivity which may be of concern before SC 78. Madam Chair, there was support for our proposal. However, we do not find the time limit mentioned in the summary records. Therefore, we request addition of the words before SC 78 and provide all possible in-country assistance to carry out visits to those facilities, and direct the Secretariat to report to the SC 78 on implementation of paragraph H in the summary records in para H for this document after the words to do so. Further, India had also suggested addition of a paragraph regarding identification of new facilities which may be of concern. The Standing Committee agreed for discussion in the SC 78 on this proposal. However, the same does not get reflected in the executive summary. We therefore suggest addition of para J. The committee agreed for discussion in SC 78 on directing the Secretariat to carry out exercises to further identify facilities keeping Asian big cat species in captivity which may be of concern. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. So we have added the language after the end of recommendation H to, so that there's that reporting. So it would be, what is the language? Can you just repeat that language again prior to SC 78? Give the floor to India.
Madam Chair, do you want me to repeat the language?
Yeah, just for recommendation H, please.
We propose addition of the words before SC 78 and provide all possible in-country assistance to carry out visits to those facilities and direct the Secretariat to report to the SC 78 on implementation of paragraph H. Further, Madam Chair, we also suggested addition of para J. Since committee had agreed on our proposal to be discussed in SC 78 regarding identification of new facilities, so we suggest that another para should be added. The committee agreed for discussion in SC 7.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
The committee didn't agree to that additional paragraph J. There was some discussion on the floor regarding that, and I believe the Secretariat even took the mic and was saying that this is a lengthy undertaking to go through and to identify all like new facilities, and that it would be very resource intensive, and that is something that would need to be directed by the Conference of the Parties. And so that was not although it was discussed, it wasn't an agreed upon recommendation by the committee.
So we propose that it may be recorded in the summary records of the minutes.
Yep, it will be recorded in the summary record.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this document? And so the committee adopts summary record 5 with the addition of recommendation, the addition of the EU to agenda item 59 as a comment that was noted, and in 41.2 Asian big cats in captivity, recommendation H for this, and to report to SC 78. With that, I close this agenda item. And we move on to Sum Record 6, Wednesday afternoon. Do we have any comments on this summary record? Standing committee members, observer parties, observer organizations. All right, so we'll start with the United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to agenda item 74, under point C, we see that the executive summary indicates that the committee noted a preference for, et cetera, And our recollection from the discussion in this committee was that, that the committee agreed a preference for, so rather than noting that it was in fact the agreement of the committee. But if others recollect differently, please let us know, but that's our recollection. Thank you.
Thank you, the United States. I give the floor to Lao PDR.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding to agenda item 33.10, I would like to request the Standing Committee to change a recommendation from the committee, recommend that parties suspend trade with Lao PDR in specimen of on-CITES list species for commercial purpose. 2, the committee recommend that the parties suspend trade with Lao PDR in specimen of selected CITES list species for commercial purpose. We are open for the full trade suspension at SC 78 if the Standing Committee find our progress in adapt quest. And the rest looks okay for us since they are in our plan implementation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just to clarify, to the representative from Lao PDR, the executive summary is a record of what was agreed upon by the committee, and the committee did not agree upon selected CITES listed specimens, and so that should not be an insert into the executive summary record. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also want to comment on document 74, letter C. We cannot agree with the changing of noted to agreed because this is to be deferred to the next meeting. And instead we want to propose in this letter C to achieve a balanced and a clear presentation of the deliberation. China suggests paragraph C to be amended as after Appendix 1, insert in response to a nomenclature change, and after as well as insert other, and after comments, insert including a species level listing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The representative from China, I got the first one of in response to a nomenclature change, and then I'm not tracking the rest of it. I give the floor to China, just to repeat.
Thank you for giving the floor. My second proposed change is that insert other after as well as, and insert including a species level listing after comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So in regards to document 74, the Secretary, in developing this executive summary, actually went back and checked the record, and it is noted, that's what the committee did, and it's a preference for changing Loxodona africana to Loxodona SPP in Appendix 1, as well as the comments made on the floor. Although the discussion did include the possibility or the feasibility of an implementation at the species level, it wasn't a decision that was made by the committee. The committee noted a preference, and so that the discussion will be reflected in the summary record in more detail, which will show that there was consideration for a species level listing. I give the floor to Senegal.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam. I think with respect to sum 6 and document 114, as the United States said earlier, the Standing Committee did reach agreement on the genus level listing of the African elephants. We did not hear any objection to that in the course of the debate. So the Animals Committee really is not in a position to come to a determination on this subject. So with respect to document 114, we do think a decision was made, as the United States said. We did agree where what level the listing should be made. So we should say the committee reached a consensus as to a preference for Loxodonta africana to be listed as a Loxodonta species, so a genus level listing. Then on E, we have another comment. So we would suggest the first, we should, so should the Animals Committee agree to recommend a change to nomenclature and to the standard reference, we should delete that and simply say requested the Secretariat to prepare possible proposals for consequential amendments to relevant resolutions and CITES guidelines and submit them for the consideration of the committee at its 78th meeting. I can reread that for you, Madam, if you would like me to.
I don't think it will be necessarily, it won't be necessary. The executive summary is what I, as the chair, concluded and what I heard from the standing committee. And so regarding C, it was noted that it was a preference. It was a preference. This is an ongoing discussion that is happening in the Animals Committee, and the Animals Committee is still discussing this. And so the standing committee was looked at implementation and made a preference. And so that is what has been noted. But this is not the standing committee saying this is how it's going to be, because it's ongoing discussions in the Animals Committee. And so for recommendation E, that is just exactly how it is in the document, and that is what the standing committee agreed upon. And so we're not able to make changes at this time. I give the floor to Kenya. Please give the floor to Kenya.
Madam Chair, on this document, we want to make a few edits for clarity purpose on Agenda 63.1, Part E, so that we are specific on what revised edition of the African Elephant Action Plan is. Is the African Elephant Action Plan as approved in 2022 by the African Elephant Range States. Then, Madam Chair, I also wanted to make a few points or a few edits on agenda item 74, and I think you have already pronounced it, but we wanted to align ourselves with the comment made by US regarding number C, and I think you have explained about the difference between agreed, because we believe that the standing committee agreed. Going forward, we'll be talking about using the genus level, the Loxodonta species, but if it's noting, we thought it was an agreement. The last part E, we've considered that now that the Animals Committee has done their part of their part, we may not need to say, should the Animals Committee agree? Because we believe that the Animals Committee will feed into the Standing Committee, and the Standing Committee makes a determination. So we consider that the first part of that sentence could be stricken out, but begin with a request to the Secretariat to prepare possible proposal, and the rest of the text remains. Thank you.
Yeah, can I give the floor to the chair of the Animals Committee just to give an update on where we are with this nomenclature, because there seems to be a bit confusion.
Thank you, Chair. So what we will be doing in the Animals Committee is look at the standard reference for the African elephant species. That's what we will be defining, and we will make a corresponding proposal to the COP on that. That's what we will be doing, nothing else.
Thank you, Animals Committee. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On document Sum 6, we would like to seek clarification on page 3 regarding page 3 under paragraph 33, Laos, regarding trade in live elephants. After this, we have a paragraph concerning Macaca fascicularis, where we noted that it was not mentioned in the original document. We would like to see clarification on why and how this new additional paragraph is there, and yeah, because we are arranged that in this for this species as well, and we will be concerned that this would affect us as well in some way.
This was just a note as requested by the committee, since we're talking about Lao PDR. The committee asked specifically if we can note that that the Secretariat is investigating this issue of legal acquisition of founder stock for captive facilities. That was at the request of the Standing Committee, although it was not mentioned in the document. The committee asked for it specifically to be noted, and so that's why it's being reflected in the document. I'm going to give it to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Indonesia for this question. It was not included in the original document that the Secretariat presented and finalized early September on Lao PDR, because this investigation was only initiated after the document was concluded and finalized and submitted. So we updated the Standing Committee as we introduced the document of this request that the Animals Committee had asked, and how we have been following up with Lao PDR on this. But it's really ongoing already. It's still ongoing, so we were not able to give any further information with regard to any findings concerning the captive breeding facilities for Macaca fascicularis. Thank you.
Switzerland.
Maybe a short explanation to Indonesia why it came here. At the Animals Committee 32, we selected a range of countries where there were concerns about captive breeding. And we also wanted to select Lao PDR, but according to the resolution, if there is a party in the Article 13 compliance process, we cannot choose them, but we can advise the Secretariat to look the issue up within the Article 13 process. So that's what we did, and that's why it came up now in this document.
Thank you, Switzerland. Any additional comments on this document? Okay, so what I'm seeing is just a clarifying edit made by the gentleman from Kenya regarding Doc 63 on elephants for E, to have welcomed the revised African Elephant Action Plan as approved in 2022 by the African range states. African elephant range states, just to find clarity on what action plan it is. With that, the committee adopts summary record 8 with that one amendment, and we can close this agenda item. We take up summary record number 7 from Thursday morning. I open the floor to comments on summary record 7. Secretariat, may I have some notes first?
Yes, a very small technical edit on the first page under 39.4, again, too hasty of a copy and paste. The committee noted the discussions in the working group, and we had invited the Standing Committee to make any additional suggestions, but I think that last bit can be deleted. Thank you.
Open the floor. Committee members, observer parties, observer organizations, any comments on Summary Record 7? I give the floor to the United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two items, the first being under item 67.1. Item B, it should read, request all parties that catch pelagic sharks, not oceanic white tip. And for the second item, it is under 33.13.2. Down on item K, we would like to add the addition to the end as and the request from Chad to establish a technical advisory group to provide a comprehensive and independent review of Mexico's compliance action plan. We are requesting that. I acknowledge that it was not agreed by the Standing Committee, but given Mexico's comment with their request for a visit after the mission, I think it would be fair to include Chad's request since there was a lot of parties that were supportive of it, just as a note.
Unfortunately, when we're not going to be able to add that comment when the gentleman from Mexico wanted to suggest the order of the visits, I did say we will note your comment, and so that's why the comment is noted in the summary record. However, it wasn't added, it wasn't requested by the United States or anyone on the committee to note that that a request was made by Chad or anyone else for a technical advisory group. But it will be reflected in the summary record for that agenda item. I give the floor to India.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam, during our intervention on the SC 77 Doc 33.12.2 report of the Secretariat, we had suggested that the word request in paragraphs 46C, F, and G be substituted with the word urge. Madam Chair, we believe there was support for this proposal. However, in the summary records, we do not find any amendment. We still feel that these changes are necessary in the interest of conservation and protection of this species. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Mexico. The Secretariat will check the tape to see what language was used, whether it was to take or to urge, and they will correct it accordingly. Any additional comments on Summary Record 7? And so the committee will adopt Summary Record 7 with the amendment to document 17.1B to request all parties that catch pelagic sharks to report to the Secretariat on their national level implementation efforts and regulations for implementing the listings for the white tip reef shark. Oceanic white tip shark. With that, I conclude this agenda item, and we move on to the very last one, Summary Record 8. This is from yesterday afternoon. And so I open the floor to committee members, observer parties, and observer organizations for comments on this summary record. Not seeing any comments on this summary record. The committee adopts summary record number 8. And with that, I can close this agenda item. We did it, folks.
Ukraine.
I open the floor for agenda item number 75. Any other business? The Ukraine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates, my country has been going through 1 year and 8 months and a half of the large-scale war by Russia. It's been more than 9 years since Russia launched its unjustified and unprovoked armed aggression in 2014. Russia's war destroys habitats of thousands of species of wild fauna and flora of Ukraine. Many animals endangered by CITES in zoos, national parks, and other institutions were killed or injured due to artillery and rocket fire from the Russia's armed forces. Russia's war undermined the ability to adhere to the established procedures with CITES, permits and certificates for the CITES-listed species. Furthermore, in general, 1.24 million hectares of the nature reserve found being a habitat to a large number of wild animals were damaged since the beginning of Russia's large-scale war. The situation in the largest steppe reserve in Europe, Ascania Nova Biosphere Reserve, remains critically difficult after the establishment of actual control over the institution by the temporarily occupying authorities. We are alarmed by the call of the temporarily occupying forces for the illegal exchange of animals of the Ascania Nova with those in Russia, posing a real threat of relocation of animals, including rare and protected CITES species, namely Przewalski horses, Saiga antelopes, and kulans. Such actions are in gross violation of CITES Convention, in particular its Article 2, 3, 4, and 6. Distinguished delegates, as a result of invasion of Russia, our natural heritage will suffer significant damage. Military actions, the destructive effect of explosions, the movement of military equipment, the construction of fortifications, fire as a result of shelling, chemical pollution of soil adversely affect natural ecosystems. The habitats of wild animals and plants are destroyed or disturbed. Rare species of flora and fauna, including those listed in the Red Book of Ukraine, are in danger. That is 600 species of animals and 750 species of plants and fungus. Overall, nearly 6 million domestic animals were killed as a result of Russian aggression. So were at least 50,000 dolphins in the Black Sea, which comprises more than 40% of their population. As a result of the undermining by the Russian Federation of the dam of the Kakhovka hydroelectric station, the Kakhovka reservoir was drained, water flow left the territory, 193 species of plants and 1,116 species of animals were affected, of which 66 species are rare.
The list of consequences of the Russia's war against Ukraine to the environment is unending. The magnitude of the Russian aggression will be felt for years or even decades to come.
Ukraine,
Dear Standing Committee members, I will conclude.
Thank you.
Dear Standing Committee members, distinguished participants, armed conflicts pose a growing threat to the implementation of strategies to combat wildlife crime, capacity building programs, and other efforts to combat illegal wildlife trade. Reaffirming our commitment to working towards a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace, not only for all living creatures in Ukraine and the region, but the world globally, we reiterate our demand for the Russian Federation to cease its aggression and withdraw its troops from the entire territory of Ukraine, thus restoring Ukraine's ability to protect and restore the environment within its internationally recognized borders. We encourage member states to contribute to the implementation of the peace formula of President Zelensky in order to ensure environmental security and address the environmental consequences of Russia's war. I thank you.
Please bring it to a complete, thank you. So I'm going to open the floor for other business. We need to be out, this meeting has to be concluded by 5 o'clock. And so I'm going to allow for other business with a 1-minute time limit. And the gentleman will cut the mic at 1 minute. We need to make sure that we can conclude the last 3 agenda items in the next 10 minutes. And so I'm going to go through and give the floor to some people, but some parties, but it needs to be 1 minute. There will be no rebuttals back and forth, but folks can make their interventions. I give the floor to the Russian Federation with a 1-minute intervention.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We didn't want to make any political statements, but we are compelled to take the floor in order to exercise the right of reply. We would like to remind the participants that the so-called war started not in February 2022, but 9 years ago, in 2014, and that it started as a bloody civil conflict inside Ukraine. The economic blockade and aggression towards its own population led us to initiate the special military operation. With regards to accusations on inflicting damage to the environment, we strongly deny them, and we would like to make a special emphasis on the destruction of Kakhovka Dam. We urged the world community of such a risk back in October 2022. Our permanent representative in New York submitted an official letter which was published as an official document of the Security Council. You can check the web. Thank you.
Thank you, Russian Federation. I give the floor to Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving Indonesia the floor. Indonesia is delivering this statement on behalf of a group of countries in the OIC, including Indonesia, Pakistan, Malaysia, Qatar, Turkey, and Palestine, of course. Referring to the statement of the Ukrainian delegation, I would like to use this opportunity to draw the attention to the world's current pressing issue. As we are aware of the current situation in Palestine, it's important for us to discuss. Gaza, as besieged occupied enclave of Palestine land of 365 square miles, 2.3 million people live there, nearly 50% of their children, 70% of them refugees. Bombing Gaza as ferociously and incessantly as Israel has, wiping out entire neighborhoods, civilians, and causing severe environmental destruction. The war damaged farmland, contributed to the loss of animals and plants, disease, outbreaks, and pollution. Water crisis, hindered climate change mitigation, and waste management. These man-made environmental disasters.
Georgia, I give you the floor.
Can I? Oh, okay.
Georgia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Indeed, I would agree that this war has not started in 2022, but centuries ago already in our region. Ladies and gentlemen, as a country which witnessed a tremendous long-term negative impact of the unprovoked aggression, which also affected my country's natural heritage, Georgia shares concerns raised by the delegation of Ukraine and reiterates its unwavering support to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine within the internationally recognized borders. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. I give the floor to the European Union.
Thank you. The UN's member states would like to express full solidarity with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. We fully support the intervention made by Ukraine. The EU and its member states condemn also in the strongest possible terms Hamas for its brutal and indiscriminate terrorist attacks across Israel. The use of civilians as human shields by Hamas is a particularly deplorable atrocity. We reiterate our call on Hamas to immediately release all hostages without any precondition, and we deplore all loss of civilian life. Thank you.
Thank you. We will not be able to take any more comments on this issue or under this agenda item of 75 other business. We have 5 minutes to conclude the meeting, and I need to give the floor to the Secretariat. We're concluding agenda item 75 and opening agenda item 76 and giving the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, the Secretariat has made arrangements to hold the 78th meeting of the Standing Committee in this facility from the 3rd to the 8th of February 2025. You will note that we have made arrangements for 1 extra day. We hope that's going to be enough to make it through the agenda. So it's from the 3rd to the 8th of February 2025. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I give the floor, that's the end of that agenda item 76 and closing remarks. Number 77, I give the floor to the Secretary General.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and very quickly. Firstly, to give thanks to you for how well you have managed this meeting, that we could finish today on time. I would like to also say you have two fantastic qualities. One, being very calm. Under the surface, she kept telling us how nervous she was, but what you saw was a person completely calm who can manage this perfectly. Applause. Let me thank everyone else. We're going to run out of time. And the second quality is how she has her finger right next to the button, the mic button. She knows exactly when to turn it on and off. I've never seen somebody so fast. Good for you. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for your dedication and commitment to make sure the Standing Committee, the parties, observer parties, the observers who are here with us, it's recognized globally, the dedication that you have to CITES. Of course, our thanks to Switzerland for hosting this meeting, for their gracious contribution, to everybody working in the CICG for their support, to our dear interpreters who help us so much and give us those extra minutes when we need them. Thank you so much. To the translators, the technicians, everybody who gives us support, and of course to my dear colleagues in the CITES Secretariat. You have not been sleeping for months now. It seems like you are stretched so thin. Really, I'm glad that we can recognize you here today. And my final word, please, somebody host COP20. Since I started here 5 years ago, it has been one after another. Please, I need a host for COP20. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And so that concludes 77.1. We'll open 77.2, which is the closing remarks of the chair. And the Secretary General says that the chair cries every time. And I know why now, because everyone is applauding. But I really want to thank my U.S. CITES team for being adaptable and being able to get the delegation together and present well for the United States without their head of delegation, and Anne St. John for taking over my role when I took over this role. I want to thank everyone for their well wishes all week for Rose. She's been working at home and looking at the YouTube video every day, and she is so thankful for the well wishes. And yeah, she's been here with us virtually. I want to thank the Secretariat staff from the minute I landed. They were so supportive of me getting spun up to do this role, and late nights, and Sophie over here on my left helping me through this meeting. It really was an incredible support system I felt throughout the week, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And then to you guys all, I mean, you had such grace and patience with me while I navigated this role that I just sort of fell into on Friday, and smiling faces and nods and thumbs up and encouragement in the hallway and at lunch, it really meant the world to me and gave me the confidence to go on when I felt like hiding under the desk, like particularly during RST, where I just wanted to go away and hide somewhere. But you guys have been wonderful this week, and I thank you so much. And with that, I close the meeting.